We're ready. Okay. Baptist Church PolityII, Lecture 1, Part B. We're going to go pretty quick over this because of our time here. Sorry, online students, but if I skip some parts, make sure you read it. Church dead, is it? I can't get too much feedback, sorry, because of our time. But nowhere in the Bible does God give permission for a church to go into debt. And of course, most of us would say it's not really wise to do that. Yeah. Is it a sin, though? Well, on the other hand, neither does the Bible expressly forbid a church from taking out a loan. Broadly speaking, however, it does not seem wise for a church to be in debt. In nearly every instance where debt is mentioned in the Bible, it is in a negative light. Mm-hmm. Someone read the verse there.
For the Lord thy God blesseth thee, as he promised thee, and thou shalt lend unto many nations, but thou shalt not borrow. And thou shalt reign over many nations, but they shall not reign over thee.
So it's Old Testament, I know it's the nation of Israel, but there's a principle there with God and the nation of Israel we need to listen to. Here's three main reasons for not going into debt as a church. First, borrowing denies the church the opportunity to see God's blessing. They need to walk not according to the flesh, but walk by faith. Second, a church having to service a debt restricts its ability to serve the Lord. Just think if it's tight and you're trying to make those debt payments. We all know how that is probably in our own families. And as a church, it gets horrible. It can really restrict you. And finally, many churches choose to go into debt with the reason that the new building will bring in more people, which will help us pay off this debt. And that's how you sell it to them. And does it work that way? Oftentimes, no. In point of fact, however, what really happens is that church contributions go towards the interest payments. Look what they wrote here. This is from, who's this? Well, someone other than me wrote this. Once again, I don't have the reference. Oh, there it is. No reference. Oh, no. Anyway, studies have consistently shown that most denominations that go into debt spend more on their interest payments than they do on evangelism or mission work.
Yes.
But they got to have that big building. Why? Because it looks awesome. We're going to be somebody. We got the big building, right?
It's comfy.
Yeah, it's comfy. We'll get more people, and maybe you would. Someone read the 2 verses there? Or 3, whichever it is. The rich ruleth over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. And when he had begun to reckon, one was brought unto him, which owed him 10,000 talents. But for as much as he had not to pay, his Lord commanded him to be sold, and his wife, and children, and all that he had, and payment to be made. How would it go for a church if they had a financial corporation after them trying to collect a debt? It's a horrible testimony. And it could potentially cause the church to lose all its assets. Talked to the Independent Baptist Church there in Indianapolis. It was more of a tax issue as far as I understand it, but they owed. And the government seized all their building. I mean, they had lots. It was huge. One of the biggest churches in America. Took it all. Won't mention the name, but you'll research it. And perhaps the most damaging result of church going into debt is the tension it places upon its members. The church wants to grow, but now its motives are mixed. It now has the additional obligation to meet the monthly payments. And it's like always, I've been in a church, or around churches at least, that are like this. Always it's in the front of everything. Oh, we got this debt. We got this big sign, this big board here where it shows how much of the debt we're paying off and how much to go. And we need to have this. We'll have different ways to raise monies. It just kind of becomes a dire need, urgent issue. The singleness of purpose and unity of motive have been diluted by the need for more income. If attendance slackens, financial difficulties are soon on the horizon. So just think you take $1 million loan out, things are going great, you can pay it right now, but 10 families leave. This happens. 10 families leave, and all of a sudden, oh no, how are we going to pay this now? When a church goes into debt, it is essentially trying to serve two masters, God and mammon. Yeah. In my view, God tells us to walk by faith. Money says to walk by sight. God tells us to set our minds on things above. These type of things tell us to set our mind on the things of the earth. And back and forth on this. Church leaders must demonstrate through their abiding faith in God that He can and will provide whatever resources are needed. So, even getting a building. Let's say it was $400,000, we had $200,000 saved up. What should we do?
Save it more.
Yeah, the wise thing is, say, well, Lord, we got $200,000, maybe get some other people to help us, but go to them with our best offer. and say it's $223,000.47. That's what we got. They take it, great. If they don't, go, well, Lord, you could have done that, but so
You can do your chart, just do it ahead of time, not after the fact. Your little thermostat,
Oh yeah,
do it beforehand,
yes.
and then when it's to the top, then you buy it.
Yeah, right.
Like after.
But it's ready now, brother. It's the perfect place. You've had that happen.
Oh yeah.
It's the car, the deal on the car is right now. The house deal. We'll never see a deal like this.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and but oh, how many good churches go into debt and buying properties and buildings, and seems that God blesses. Go talk to Olympia. I mean, they're being blessed. Now that was a pretty tight time though, and maybe it still is financially. I don't know, but so we have to be careful to say, "It's of the devil, and God will curse you if you go into debt." Yeah. Well, it could be true, but there's plenty of testimonies I hear about men going to building programs and pastors, and they say it's a tough time, but it is a blessing, and you need to do that too. You need to go into debt too. What a blessing it is. So God's given us everything we need to read 2 Peter there. Can you be happy with what you have, church? But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into this world, and it's certain we can carry nothing out. The church building's not going with us when we leave. And having food and raiment, let us be there with content. How many times do you see in the Bible talking about a church meeting place building? You got houses they meet in, but not the church owning some building.
In the New Testament.
In the New Testament. I've never seen it, though there might be one or two spots you can say maybe it does. So it's definitely not a big thing. They met in where they could meet. They found a meeting place, and maybe they rented, because they probably met weekly, not daily. So where were they meeting at? Out in the field every time? Probably not. Okay, jokey, artichokey. Should a church pay property tax or taxes when they purchase a vehicle? My point here on this is that, and some people totally disagree with this. You have your right to disagree with these, but this is the way I see it. And I'm teaching it. So it's up to the government on this tax exempt. But just so you know, as I wrote here, nowhere under the legal explanations of the code of 501c3 does it mention churches. So that's one issue to know. It doesn't talk about churches in that. Churches are under the mandatory exemption, this federal government, and are not required to apply for tax exemption. Churches are not tax exempt. Sorry, churches are not tax exempt. Rather, they are non-taxable. And I went through this. I didn't know anything about it, but I'm not too good at this. It took about 6 months to figure it out. But I finally found it not through online, somebody else writing about it, just through our Olympia government there. And finally, the guy says, "No, you're not taxable. We just recommend you apply for 501c3. Most do." I said, "Well, I don't want to do that. Is there another way?" Yeah, there's this other one, this section 508 right here. It talks about that. So online students, pastors, at least in America, as far as I know, unless the law's changed, you are automatically non-taxable. Though they can change that. Then what? Depends if they tax you as churches 50%.
Then you pay it.
You pay it.
If it's forced.
Yeah, it's the way it goes.
Yep.
That's how you operate. Now, you don't have to have money. You can be a church without any money.
Yep. That's right.
You don't have to have money to be a church. How do you do that? You just do it.
You do it all the time when you start out a new church.
Yeah.
I mean,
No money. What do you got money for? Well, you got to have chairs, you got to have hymn books, you got proper lighting. No, you don't have to have any of that. Just have people.
meet in a house.
Somebody's house, right. God is going to set it up for you, though. You might have to learn some things. Communism, I don't know what you think about this, but you can read the verse, I think you know it. They had all their things in common. I believe Acts 2, communism is for today, meaning you can do it. It's not just for back then, because most pastors I hear say it would never work today. Never tried it, though. But what about the person who is, there's some people that are wealthy and they're concerned about this guy that's not working, he's on welfare, and we're supposed to meet all his needs and make sure he lives comfortably? He can work. The guy can work. I'm not pointing at any of you guys. Well, that man needs to work. 1 Thessalonians talks about that.
Yeah.
He should meet if he doesn't work, if he's able to work. So deal with that. Is it okay for a church to lend or loan money to its members? Sorry, we're going to cover this other than the red here. I believe it is not scriptural for a church to lend or loan money to its members.
No.
They can give the money to them.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Benevolence. Hoping for nothing again in return.
Right.
But don't get into this, okay, you're having troubles making your loan payments. Well, and some churches do this. We'll loan you, and we'll work out this deal at 0 or 1% interest, and then you're entering into the unknown there, the abyss.
Yep.
Just give them the money or say, "Hey, on God."
Yeah.
Sorry. And the church does not have to, well, if you couldn't pay your bill, your electrical bill, it's not the church's responsibility to pay your electrical bill. It's the electrical company's maybe responsibility to work out a deal with you, and really it's your responsibility to pay it. But it is our responsibility to make sure you live safely and comfortably and, relatively.
At least food, clothing.
Yeah, food, clothing, shelter. And that might include electricity, so something to think
It
about.
might not be at that house. It might be
Yeah.
somewhere else.
Yeah, and maybe this God's just going to work things out here. So I just had someone ask me that before they were leaving this morning, remember. They can't pay their electrical bill, and it's due Wednesday. So call me on Wednesday, and we'll see what's going on. Malachi 3:8, we won't read it, but apply that to a church. Robbing God. And it's just, yes, it's risky, but just think about it. And if every church member gave a tithe, and if this was actually applicable to them, just think how a church could be blessed. And just think if they, because I think they were supposed to give all their back tithes, the folks in Israel there. So just think if they gave all their back tithes also. Not that you have to do it that way, but it's something to think about. Okay, we did that in record time. Thank you. Another break.